Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, anyone and everyone in between, let us know in the comments below. What are your most unhinged character ideas? My current character is a former male heir to his dwarven clan, but 40 years ago, a union of orcs, goblins, and giants slaughtered his entire clan while he was far out on patrol, ironically hunting greenskins, which is what set the orcs off in the first place. After a year on the back foot, they responded in kind. The crazy part? Mosskin has waged a one-man guerrilla war in the mountain range of his former home for 40 years. He has developed the ability to sneak up on orc or goblin sentries by skinning orcs and harvesting their subcutaneous fat from their hide. Then applying the green orc grease to his head, face, and armor to hide the dwarf smell. And it works surprisingly well. This hasn't been very helpful for his mental state over the years, of course, so at the start of the adventure, he is chaotic neutral. I love role-playing him. I can go nuts, but still think strategically because of his survival proficiency. Unlike my other dwarf barbarian colleague, who chops everything in range once he goes into a rage. I've got an idea for an awakened dog whose owner was killed. An archfey felt bad for the dog and true polymorphed him into a human. His name is Milo, and he's a warlock to the archfey. I once played a man-eating gnome bard. The gnome was only the host, though, as I was actually a modified illithid inside the gnome's brain and would hop hosts whenever mine died. This was years before Baldur's Gate 3 was released, and when it was, I immediately replayed that character for the brainworm. I had the idea of making a fighter, but placing all his stats for a sorcerer. He'd be a terrible fighter, but would try his best because he thought it would make his parents proud and wanted to honor their memory. Over time, he would slowly come to understand that he has innate magical abilities and would eventually make the switch to being a full-time sorcerer. Aviomancer! Not too wild, honestly. It's a summoner that could be composed of whatever multi-class or just a straight druid, wizard, etc., with all spells reskinned and renamed to be about magically summoned live birds. I don't even like birds per se, but I don't dislike them. Firebolt is now Finchbolt, where a live finch explodes out of the end of the sleeve, thwacks an enemy in the face, and creates enough friction to deal fire damage. Fireball is now Goosebomb, where an angry, territorial faux gras goose leaps out from the folds of the character's robe, honks a lot, honk, and explodes in flames from overstuffing, dealing fireball damage. Telekinesis, Eagle Cry, where a large bird of prey lifts an enemy by the shoulders, pecks them, and flings them away. I can go on, but you get the idea. Both my parents were secretly dragons disguised as humans. Mechanically, they were dragonborn reflavored to look human, and I went with the beast barbarian subclass for the shape-shifting shenanigans. You can totally play Dr. Doofenshmirtz as a chaotic evil artificer, of course. High intelligence, ridiculously low wisdom, he can invent a de-evolutionator, but can't recognize Perry the Platypus without his hat. Doof even comes pre-assembled with a tragic edgelord backstory. His parents weren't there for his birth. He was raised by ocelots, used as a garden gnome by his horrible father, and has a goody two-shoes brother his parents actually love. That said, I also really want to play a blue-orange mortality lizard folk. On their own moral scale, they'd be lawful neutral good, but by humanoid standards, they'd be chaotic evil. I played Gizzard the Lizard Wizard, a lizard folk necromancer up to level 14. He wanted to be the Henry Ford of the dead. The lizard folk ability to make useful tools out of a carcass wasn't enough for him. Oh no, he saw it as a waste. He wanted to revolutionize lizard folk society by using every part of a dead body, not just the parts. An idea I have yet to try is a fighter created by the knight card from the deck of many things. And for some reason, his master wasn't there when he was created, but he knows what his master looks like and their name. Nobody seems to have ever heard of them, so he travels in search of his missing master. Back in the 3rd edition days, I also had an NPC who was the head of the illusion department at a magic school. He was a gnome reduced to 3 inches tall after repeated botched experiments with a rod of wonder. He had a harness that let him ride his bat familiar and hollowed out the ornately carved newel at the end of a library staircase to make it his wizard tower. He would cast levitate and project an illusion of himself full-sized while using mage hand to appear normal while teaching classes. I once had a player who played a 1,000-year-old sentient fox. The fox had been enchanted by a wizard and granted both the power of speech and some magical abilities. However, they had an existential crisis when they realized the wizard's meddling had taken away their ability to speak animal languages of any kind. I've been juggling the idea of a giant druid who can't help but kill things because of his size. He's an emotionally damaged fellow because all he's ever wanted to do is be gentle and loving, but his inability to control his size and strength always ends up smooshing smaller people and destroying most things in his path. That's why he becomes a druid. He feels he must do something to create and protect life to make up for how much of it he destroys. Now this wasn't D&D, but the most unhinged character I ever made was an old World of Darkness vampire. She was Clan Giovanni, took a flaw that made her look like a literal corpse, and had 2 specialties: accounting and torture. She earned her embrace by tracking down embezzlement and completely breaking the one responsible. Then she asked for the embezzler's demented ghost to be bound to her as a servant. She didn't bother remembering his name, and because her grasp of English idioms wasn't great, she got nutty as a fruitcake and bats in the belfry mixed up. So she called him Fruit Bat. She was cold, sarcastic, and only really enjoyed herself when hurting someone. Apparently she scared everyone, and weirdly they loved her because of it. I want to play a reborn mind flayer that's just come back to life after a separate adventuring party successfully killed the Elder Brain. Now free to think for himself, he picks up some rusty armor, a shield, and a sword, and travels as an Oath of Redemption paladin, trying to right the wrongs of his past. Of his original race, the only power I'd want to keep is some form of limited telepathy, like the Verdun, as it were. I just love the idea of a zombie illithid in rusted armor walking into a town and healing the sick, dispelling ancient curses, or fending off a small army of goblins. His name, by the way, is Kyle, and most of his spells and combat tactics would revolve around, "We're going to sit down and talk through our problems, even if it kills you!" So lots of grappling and charm, hold, dominate spells. My friend came up with this idea. It's a half-orc wizard who is blind and, as all wizards do, uses a book as a catalyst. However, the book is a children's coloring book, but the half-orc believes so strongly that it's a magical artifact of immense power that it actually works. Bonus points if the party goes along with it and convinces NPCs to regard it as a powerful artifact, ignoring the terribly colored elephant that's out of the lines. I'm playing a character in a Cyberpunk campaign that's a little bit unhinged. My character looks like the dead child of a mob boss. When the mob boss found her, he fiddled with both their memories to make them believe they were father and daughter. My character still believes this, but I expect her true childhood will be revealed eventually. The campaign itself, by the way, is wild. My character has a massive prosthetic left arm and works as a bodyguard at a bunny girl bar, where her uniform is a bunny girl outfit. Outside of work, she dresses in Lolita fashion because one of our resident artists requested it. Currently, we're mid-heist. I sang a duet of Bohemian Rhapsody with a guard in a lift, and the basement of the place we're robbing tortures prisoners with nightcore music. We had a discussion about character heights and decided my 6'2" character wears 7-inch heels to hit the funny number height of 6'9". High five. One of the party members has a homebrew magic item called Joel's Boots of Intimidating Height, which makes the wearer exactly 1 foot taller than whomever they're talking to. In the last session, the player with the boots proposed to a random soldier attacking us in combat. They rolled a nat 20 on charisma, and the soldier rolled a nat 1 to resist it. Well, now I'm a bridesmaid. A tiefling who is such because their grandfather made a deal with a devil to empower his bloodline. When they were little, their grandfather killed their parents and took their twin brother, whose powers were stronger. The tiefling was left an orphan until they were taken in by a community that later died of a plague. Only the tiefling survived, scarred and hideous from the illness. They're a paladin who has come out the other side of the edgiest possible backstory, full of sunshine and hope, believing that even when things are bad, people look out for each other. Their goal is to find their twin and to help free them. Now, I didn't play this, but I heard it from someone in a campaign I'm in now. A player ran a goblin who would butcher and eat humanoids after killing them, often in front of the party. They'd go on rants about how it tasted better than any other meat. They'd also murder random people in town, stalk them until nightfall, and then go into detail about murdering and eating them raw before disposing of the body. I recently played a sorcerer with pyrophilia, who was radicalized into supporting a communist orc uprising. The setting was based on Siberia and involved a supermax prison. My character feigned insanity, committed crimes, and got thrown into prison to plan an uprising and jailbreak. The problem? He was actually crazy and regularly hallucinated 3 to 4 characters he spoke with. One hallucination was my DM, in real life, who gave him things like matches, swords, and meta info about the prison while discussing being in a game. My character, Alfie, seemed to understand. Mage cleric conjoined twins with only separate brains. Since their brains were completely attached, they had 18 whiz and 18 int at level 1, but only one could cast spells at a time. They had 4 eyes, 2 noses, and a rather wide mouth. Their head was huge, giving them a very strong neck, which proved useful when someone tried to strangle them. However, their hats had to be custom made, and they had to have a hat. It was kind of a fetish. Nix Nimni Sanakal, a necromancer with the sage background. As a child, Nix found an old book her grandfather had about becoming a lich. But it sounded like a lot of work. It was unpleasant, and who wants to spend eternity as a desiccated corpse? Not her, so she decided to figure out how to magically create immortality. I have a grung named Green Tongue, who presents himself as higher status than he actually is. He's actually a green grung, but has colored his skin to look like an orange grung. He's afraid of water and paranoid about people looking at him because he's worried they'll expose his lie. Hey everyone, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and if you want to support us at the channel here at MrRipper, you can join our membership program. You don't have to, but it would be really appreciated for all of us here, as it keeps us well fed and secure in these dark, dark times. And of course, let us know in the comments below, what are your most unhinged character ideas? We love you all, be safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Toodaloo for now.